Jackie's going to be performing the core flexion movement. We're going to do it progressively in sequence. So we're going to start with the vertical plane resistance and just the vertical plane initially. So go ahead with that. So we have a single plane resistance. So here our dominant plane is in the vertical plane. She's pulling down, and that's what her neuromuscular hardwiring would want to do instinctively. So now we've got this resistance. Notice that the belt isn't completely tight. It's more of a tether because we're just driving back. So now, at the same time, pulling down, driving the hips back. Good. And then back up. Hips coming forward. Good. And now driving the hips back. And dropping the heels, pulling the toes up. So notice that we have some resistance to push into dorsiflexion. That's another cue you can give your athlete or your patient, is that as they drive down and back, they're pulling the toes up, driving the heels down. Excellent. Okay. Good. So now we're going to introduce the HUMAC 360, so we have a visual feedback component. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. Again, we have our dedicated screen. It's a push-button screen. So up here, I'm going to go to my settings. I'm going to set the range for Jackie. And we're going to start in the start position, which is pretty much right there. And now I'm going to have you flex down and hold. Good. All right. So we're going to go back to our training mode. We pick our roadway, which again is set up currently at 4 seconds concentric, 7 seconds eccentric. And Jackie gets to follow the roadway and coming down slowly. So also notice that what we're doing currently is we're tracking the vertical plane resistance. That's a lot easier to follow initially for your patient and or athlete because that is the dominant plane. As we progress, the next step in this progression would be to retether at an attachment point on the hip so that we're tracking the horizontal plane resistance. And that's quite a bit more difficult. Good. So the cue, verbal cues here would be as you're driving down, focusing on dropping the heel, pulling the toes up, focusing on driving the hips back, maintaining a good neutral spine, and that's a good quality of work. We have different resistances here as well. We have multiple resistances. They're color-coded, as you can probably see, and we can do any combination. But again, for balance, remembering that your vertical resistance should be the same as your horizontal resistance. Otherwise, the user is going to be out of balance.